Nothing stops Apple from bringing some really fancy stuff, right? And here's the new Apple Mac Mini 2023. The thing is that this little guy here packs a lot of punch within that little box. Does that mean it's more of a Mac Studio Junior there? Why don't we take a deeper look and see what's really new? Now, when did Apple really think about bringing out a device like this? Now, that's a long time ago, but they only made it a success a few years back in 2020. Now, coming to the user reviews of the Mac Mini, when the initial reviews came in, one of the most obvious remarks was that it offers great power on a budget. Now, when we look back, the Apple Mac Mini 2 improves upon what was already a reasonably appealing deal on the finest compact PC for the majority of users by being faster and more affordable than its predecessor. If you guys take a look at how similar the Mac Mini M2 looks to the Mac Mini M1 that Apple released in 2020, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference by looking at it. But what matters most is what's inside. The Mac Mini M2, like its predecessor, is the first Apple desktop to receive an upgrade with Apple's newest piece of custom silicon, the M2 processor. For the first time, you can select to replace the Mac Mini with the M2 Pro, which is the better son among the two siblings. Now, when going through many expert reviews, they say, this time, it's better since the Mac Mini processor comes in two choices, the M2 for everyday computing and the M2 Pro for creative work. Let's see what each of them has to offer. Now, if you plan on going with the M2 Pro option, you'll get some excellent performance in a small package, a generous number of ports, and a range of connection options including the Wi-Fi 6E. But it's not great that there are no front-facing connectors or SD card slots. The Mac Mini requires a cable keyboard connection or an Apple Magic Keyboard, which makes setup less than practical. And guess what? Third-party Bluetooth keyboards cannot be connected during setup. The entry-level model includes an M2 chip with a 256GB SSD for storage, an 8-core CPU, a 10-core GPU, and 8GB of memory. You can spend additional money to get more memory, storage, a faster Ethernet connector, or an M2 Pro processor if you want more power. With a starting price of $1,299 for the Mac Mini with M2 Pro, the cost of upgrading the chip is about $700. The entry-level Mac Mini with M2 Pro is not only more powerful, but it also has more memory and storage, which is 16GB of RAM and a 512GB SSD. It is also larger than the entry-level Mac Mini, as well as more ports, which we said in the beginning. So yeah, you get more than just the upgrade to Pro at that price. Now, if you got some more money laying around, you could fully customize a new Mac Mini M2, you could upgrade it to the best M2 Pro processor, 32GB of RAM, an 8TB SSD, and a 10GB Ethernet connector in place of the normal 1GB port. But with all those additions, the cost jumps to a cool $4,499. Does that look good on the price tag? Anyways, let's take a look at the designs. Alright, many of us don't mind that the Mac Mini M2's design is basically the same as the Mac Mini M1's. What else could Apple actually create that wouldn't compromise its aesthetic? Apart from that, it's kind of nice because of the being small factor. The Mac Mini M2, which weighs just under 3 pounds, is small enough to comfortably fit into any type of desk configuration. With rounded sides and a silvery aluminum body with a large black Apple logo on top, it also has a nice style. It looks like a metallic Apple emblem sticking up from your desk, and yes, it's good. Similar to its predecessor, the elevated base of the Mac Mini M2 starts to drop down from the rounded rectangular chassis to a circular black plastic disc that covers the bottom, giving the feel that it is floating slightly above your desk. But wait! If you don't like that case and plan on changing that, we suggest you don't do that. These devices are made to only be serviced by Apple. Don't plan on opening the case or changing the circuitry yourself. Remember when I said you get more ports on the M2 Pro option? Yeah, there's more to it. You see, for a total of 4 Thunderbolt 4 ports when you upgrade to the Mac Mini M2 Pro. The M2 Pro's increased power also allows for better support for external displays. For most of you guys, this probably won't make much of a difference. But the Mac Mini with M2 Pro can support up to 3 external displays, 2 of which can be connected to Thunderbolt at up to 6K resolution, and 60Hz refresh rate, and one of which can be connected to HDMI at up to 4K 60Hz. Additionally, one 8K monitor with a refresh rate of up to 60Hz or a 4K display with a refresh rate of up to 240Hz, which is exceptionally high on both counts, can be supported by the HDMI connector. But keep in mind that the base Mac Mini is also not a slacker in this situation. It can support up to 2 external screens at the same resolutions, that's 6K through Thunderbolt 4 and 4K via HDMI too. However, only the M2 Pro model of the Mac Mini can support an 8K or 240Hz display, but the entry-level Mac Mini cannot. When using the Mac Mini M2 for work and gaming, the updated M2 Pro chip inside is more than capable of handling just about anything thrown at it. So let's look at the performance elements. And even with a ton of apps running in the background, switching between 30+ tabs in Chrome and Safari is easy. Also, playing games is a lot of fun. Let it be Resident Evil, Metro, or anything else. After seeing these two, suggesting one isn't that difficult. The base model is the best option for anyone looking for a mini Mac desktop because it is quicker and more affordable than its predecessor. Additionally, it is a welcome option to update it with an M2 Pro chip, which can transform this PC into a passable gaming machine. Although it cannot match the greatest gaming PCs now available, it is still significantly less expensive, smaller, and quieter. Actually, the absence of official macOS compatibility for many games is what severely restricts the gaming potential of the Mac Mini M2. While buying a Mac Studio with M1 Ultra or a vintage Mac Pro will allow you to have a Mac desktop with higher pure performance, both of those options will set you back several $1,000s more than a fully upgraded Mac Mini M2 Pro. When looking overall at the fact that they are both desktop computers, these two gadgets are actually significantly different from one another. As a result, they serve entirely distinct user categories. The most recent Mac Mini defeats the Mac Studio from 2022 for the majority of customers, with the former looking like a bloated version of the former. At least 90% of consumers will be satisfied with the Mac Mini, whereas many users may find the Mac Studio to be unnecessary. The Mac Studio has a lot of power, but only those who use heavy and effectively will use it. For those who need it, and specifically, who can afford them, they're wonderful PCs. But for the majority of us, the new Mac Mini M2 seems like a good deal that offers power and variety at a low cost. Now, what do you guys think? Well, if you guys ask me, I would say both the M2 and the M2 Pro outperform the older M1 chips while providing superior performance and more features. And that the new Mac Mini M2 with M2 Pro is a pretty good purchase after going through all these specs and reviewing it, especially if you're seeking a tiny powerhouse that looks well on a desk. So coming to the end of today's episode, tell us in the comments which one would you go for and why? The M2 Pro or the basic variant? This isn't the end of the story. More exciting stuff will be released in the following days, and we will bring you the best of it. That's all we have for today. We'll meet up again in the next one.